Hey friends, it's Lindsay and welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be showing you how to make your makeup last all day in the hot sun. I'm going on vacation to Florida soon, and I'm just going to show you some tips and tricks that I have picked up along the way. If you don't know, my family and I like to go to Disney World in Orlando quite a lot, so I have learned a few things here and there about how to make my makeup stay all day when it's super hot and humid. So if you're interested, just keep on watching. Alright, so same as the last little makeup video I did. I'm just going to be using my little mirror, so bear with me. Hopefully I can get a better system soon, but that kind of thing takes time. So also, the lighting kind of sucks right now in my apartment, so I'm using my ring light, and it's super bright in my face. So if I get a little squinty, that's why. But yeah, other than that, let's get right into it. So I'm starting with my Farsali Unicorn Essence Primer. You definitely want to use a primer when you do your makeup in hot weather, because obviously the point is to try and make your makeup stay as long as possible. And a primer helps with that. I like this one in particular because it gives my skin like a nice tackiness, but not too much. I feel like it's that nice balance. Alright, so next I'm going to use another primer. This is my Milk Makeup Blur Stick, and I'm just going to put that where my pores are like super visible. So just a little bit, like right above my eyebrows, and then beside my nose, like on the inner portion of my cheeks there. If you watched my Jonas Brothers video, I put this all over my face. Not going to do that here because with that primer in particular, sometimes it can make your makeup a little slippery if you start to sweat. So obviously we want makeup to stay. So now I'm taking my beauty sponge. This is the Morphe one, so it has like a wedge side and then the pointy end similar to the Beauty Blender. Foundation I'm using is the Luminous Silk foundation from Giorgio Armani in shade 2. And I'm just going to pump that directly onto my beauty sponge. I usually do about 2 pumps and then just go from there. So the secret to making your makeup last is really all about the application process. So if you notice, I'm really like just pressing this into my skin as opposed to just like wiping it. This will help it not get streaky and stay in place. Also, I suggest using a foundation that is at least medium coverage, because if you use like a tinted moisturizer or something, then it's going to wear off a whole lot faster. Alright, so I'm happy with the way my foundation is now. I only did the one coat. I am going to take just a tiny bit more, like it's literally just a dot, and put that on like my forehead because I don't think I got quite enough, and then just a little bit on this side. And again, just pressing that into the skin. Alright, so next I'm going to conceal. So I'm just using my Tarte Shape Tape in Fair Neutral. And I'm just gonna go under my eyes, tiny bit. Oh, well, that was a little more than I intended, but that's alright. On my eyelids, and then cover up any blemishes or redness. So I like to start blending out my concealer with my IT Cosmetics concealer brush. I feel like it moves the product a lot better, but then I'm going to go back in with my beauty blender and make sure everything is nice and smooth. Oh, one thing I did forget to mention, I didn't do this today, but whenever I will be in Florida, obviously it's going to be really hot and I'm going to be outside all day, so sunscreen is very important. So I always just put my sunscreen on before I start like my makeup routine, so before my primer, after I moisturize, and then I just let all of my skincare products and my sunscreen just sit and like absorb into my skin before I start my makeup. So I'll let my moisturizer sink in first. I don't use as much moisturizer as I typically do whenever I know I'm going to use sunscreen, just because like the sunscreen is also moisturizing for your skin and I don't want to get greasy. So let your moisturizer sink in, then do sunscreen, let that sink in, then start your makeup. When I'm going to be in hot weather, I usually stick to like creams and gels, because I feel like they last just a tiny bit longer, and then you can set those with powder as well. If you just use powder, then that's going to just like fade away quickly, so I find it's easier to use a cream or a gel or liquid to stain even. Yeah, so today I'm going to be using the Hoola Quickie Contour Stick. And I like this one because it starts out as a cream and then dries down to a powder. So same as I did with my concealer, I'm going to start with a brush and then go back over with my beauty blender just to make sure everything is nicely blended. For my brush, I am using the Morphe MB30. It looks like this. So now I'm just going to start setting my face with powder. So for my under eye, I'm going to use the Becca Hydra Mist Set and Refresh Powder. Oh, that was a lot. Be careful with this because it comes out very quickly. So I'm just going to use this only on my under eyes and a few places where like I get dry, so kind of like around my nose and a little bit like on my chin. This is really good if you have dry skin. I wouldn't suggest it if you don't have dry skin, so like literally anything else, normal, oily, combo, whatever you got. I wouldn't suggest this for anything other but dry skin because it is so moist. I know some people hate that word, but sorry. But it is like a very wet powder, so I don't think it would be good for those skin types, because I'm afraid it will end up making you quite greasy looking. So like I was saying, this is also going to be the powder that I'm going to take with me in my park bag. So I'll just take this powder, a beauty blender, and then my tiny MAC Fix Plus. Just so I can like do little touch-ups here and there, making sure that I don't end up looking crazy whenever, like, a few hours later, you know, when I'm all been sweating for a little bit and whatever. So I'm also going to put this on my eyelids to set that concealer. Alright, so for the rest of my face, I'm going to use my Cover FX translucent powder. This powder is really nice. I would suggest this powder for baking, for like, you know, other types of skin that is not dry, because it will really lock in your makeup, which is why I'm going to be using that on the rest of my face. I don't really have any other dry patches other than like under my eye and like my cheek area right here, and then a little bit like I mentioned before around my nose and my chin. So that's why I use the Becca powder in those areas, and then I'm just going to use this powder everywhere else. I just want to show y'all this container real quick because I appreciate it. So whenever you open it, it's like this, and then it has this little spot on the top, and then that's where you get your powder from. So you don't ever have to worry about like more powder dumping out into the lid. Just super nice, because that is something I have struggled with basically my entire life. So I just put that powder on my sponge, and then I'm going to press it into the skin. With that, I was very generous with the amount of powder that I put on, and then I'm just going to go back later and wipe away the excess with a brush, but I'm just going to let all of that powder sit for now and do some powder bronzer to set the cream that I already put on. So for my bronzer, I'm just going to be using the Hourglass Ambient palette. And I'm not sure, do these have color names? Yes, okay, so the bronzer that I'm using is the Filtered Bronze Light. And all of the Hourglass stuff has, because I'm also going to be using blush from this palette as well, but it all has like a little bit of shimmer, which I think looks really nice whenever, you know, you're in the sun. Don't be afraid to go a little heavier handed on your bronzer and your blush, because it will fade, so you want to make sure it is still going to be visible after a few hours. Alright, so now I'm going to do my blush. Alright, so now I'm going to use my blush. I'm going to start out with this coral color in the middle, and then I'm going to use this purple-y kind of color on the apples of my cheeks. So the coral is the Luminous Glow Blush, and then the purpley kind of color is called the Euphoric Fusion. It is a strobe blush. Alright, so coral blush first. I find that these blushes and like their bronzer and stuff from Hourglass just really stays on. I have a really hard time finding blushes that like actually stay on my face because it just fades so quickly. But I have used like these. I've used this palette a few times going to Florida, and like my makeup has looked great the entire day. So I don't know if you can tell on camera, but like the blush, oh yeah, I can. It is very shimmery, that purple one. So that looks really pretty. I actually didn't ever realize that was a strobe blush, so learn new things every day. Alright, and so I'm just going to go back over the bronzer that I did on my nose just to make sure that that stays. Trick for when you're doing your bronzer, make sure you blend from the outside in, and it'll give a more natural finish and you won't have such like a harsh line. So now I'm going to take a brush and dust off that extra powder that I had on my face. I'm going to dip into the finishing powder in the shades Dim Light and Diffused Light from my Ambient palette from Hourglass. So just these two right here, and I'm just going to mix those together. This gives you a nice glow, so if you like matte, then I would not do this. But this doesn't, I wouldn't say this makes you shiny, it just gives you a glow. Like that's really the best way to describe it. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to use some setting spray and then go back over my whole face with my beauty sponge, that thing. So I'm just going to use my Morphe Continuing Setting Mist and just generously spray that all over my face. Back in with the sponge, just press everything into the skin, taking little breaks to do your setting mist in between steps will really help everything fuse together and last longer. So now I'm going to do my brows, and I'm just going to do those off camera and come back because I don't think it's really interesting. But if you want to know what I'm using, I just use the brow pencil from Anastasia Beverly Hills. It's actually the brow definer, so like the triangle shape pencil, and the color soft brown. Okay, so I just finished lightly filling in my brows with the pencil. Normally I just use the pencil, but since this is trying to make your makeup last all day through the hot weather, using a pencil, you need to set it because it's waxy, so when you start to sweat, then your eyebrows are gonna come off. So I am using the Morphe palette Brow 8 and just using a light brown, this one to be exact. And since I knew I needed to set my brows with powder, I only lightly filled them in because I didn't want them to end up looking too bold and in your face. It's now time for eyeshadow. I usually don't spend too much time on my eyeshadow. I'm not doing anything fancy. Just really trying to get it quick and easy, so because we're trying to get out the door, it's early in the morning, and we want to get to the park. So I'm just going to be taking in a light brown shade from my Jaclyn Hill palette, starting on the outer corner, and buffing that into my crease. Now I'm just taking a darker brown and doing the same thing. And I'm going to take the dark brown shade, what's left over on my brush, and just put that on the outer corner of my lower lash line just to blend and connect. Now if I was running late, I would just stop here, but if I have the time, then I like to add a little bit of sparkle. So I'm just going to take a flat brush spray it with my Fix Plus, and then take a shimmery shade and put it on my lid. So going back in with that same brush that I used first, I'm just going to blend the edges of that shadow that I just put on my lid, just to make everything blend together nicely. Also just going to put a little bit more of that dark brown on the outward edge. And that's pretty much it for my eyeshadow. Now it's time to move on to liner. For top liner, I like to use the Kat Von D tattoo liner. This is waterproof, so I don't have to worry about like my eyeliner and end up smudging on my eyeshadow throughout the day, which is something that happens often. So definitely when I know it's going to be hot, I like to use waterproof. So I just did a little baby wing. Usually I just do like a normal little thin liner, but today I was feeling fancy. So for my lower lash line, I do like to do liner, but I'm going to use a brown gel liner from Ulta. This is in the color black brown. I like the gel as opposed to a normal wax because the gel does last longer. Then I just take a tiny liner brush and blend that out. So before I do my mascara, I'm just going to spray my face one more time with my setting mist. So I'm going to curl my lashes. And now I'm going to be using a primer for my lashes. I use the Lancome Silk Booster XL. And I'm just going to put that on the top and bottom lashes. I'm going to start by using the mascara by Benefit. They're Real. Then I'm going to go over my lashes with a second coat. And use my Too Faced Better Than Sex waterproof mascara. So if you want, you can just move on to the next step in your routine from here. I am going to put on some false lashes. Now this will be my first time wearing false lashes into the park. I have noticed that like by the time it gets to be like after lunch, my mascara has kind of worn off and it doesn't look that great anymore, and I just really love having like my lashes pretty and full, so I will let you know how that goes. Hopefully I don't lose them, but in case I do, I just got some inexpensive ones from Ulta. Let me tell you which ones I got. So I'll be using the Eyelure X Jasmine Brown lashes. These are Faux Glow, I believe is the name of these lashes. So I have already trimmed these, and they were a little long, so I cut the ends off so they wouldn't be so heavy on my eyes. But these were only $10. I typically wear velour lashes, which cost about $30, but you know, to each their own. So with lashes, you can really get multiple uses out of them, which is why I like to invest into velour lashes. I only have a few pair, and I haven't had to get new ones. I have, I think, about 4 pairs, and they have lasted me for, I think, about a year and a half. These lashes only need to last me for the week, And like I said, I wanted to get some inexpensive ones just in case I do lose them. It's not going to be devastating. I'm going to be using the Duo Lash Glue. It doesn't say that it's waterproof on the package, so hopefully they last me throughout the day. Alright, so now that my lashes are done, I'm going to move on to highlighter. So I'm going to go back into my Hourglass Ambient palette and use the highlighter that is in there. It's actually called Strobe Powder, and it's in the shade Euphoric Strobe Light. Now I'm going to go into my Farsali Jelly Bean highlighter, just for a little extra. So I'm going to spritz my Beauty Blender. This is a different one. This one is dry. I just pulled from my makeup bag. I use it only for my highlighter. But I'm just going to spritz that a little bit with my setting spray. And then dip in to my highlighter so it has a little bit more punch. So now I'm just going to spritz my face one more time, and I'm going to take a tiny little palette to cover up my eyes so I don't transfer any mascara onto my skin. I'm going to go back with my beauty sponge and just press everything in one last time. So now for lips, I'm going to just do my normal combo. If you are worried about having to reapply throughout the day, I would use a liquid lip, or you can do the translucent powder trick, but I'm not really concerned about it. It's tiny little lip products for me, so I'm just going to throw these in my bag and call it a day. But for now, I'm going to be using the Burt's Bees Pink Blossom Tinted Lip Balm, and then pop MAC Velvet Teddy right over that, so it comes out to be a pinky nude. And then, for a little bit of sparkle, I'm going to use Burt's Bees Lip Shimmer in the shade Peony. So that wraps it up for this hot weather makeup look, and how to get your makeup to stay all day. I'll let you guys know how these eyelashes do while in the park. Hopefully they last, but we'll see. So anyways, hope you guys have a good day. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and put on your post notifications so you can get notified whenever I post. I post Tuesdays and Thursdays at around 3 p.m. Eastern time. So keep your eyes out for new videos. Bye guys.